Hi, and welcome to VFX Tutors. I'm Josh, and in this tutorial we're going to be continuing with the hard surface modelling section. So in our previous one we finished off creating this chainsaw bar. We went through and we tried to model it as close as possible to our reference. So now in this next one, because we're trying to make this as real as possible and logically as real as possible, because it's just how I sort of do things. You don't have to, you can make it as crazy as you want. My next step that I want to try and figure out is how. So let's unhide our concept. So we've got this concept here that we started off with, and we've got this chainsaw blade attached to this sort of katana. So if I just go to my concept and hide all these sort of rough bits. And I just want to leave this like real blade section. If I unhide my model, we can see this is what we were trying to sort of create. Where's let's just freeze the transforms on that. So I guess in theory that should be, let's hide that blade again. That should be tight against that. Correct, actually let's definitely leave a gap because we don't want it too close together. So I'm just going to leave it as that. We can figure out the spacings of things afterwards, but what I want to figure out is this sort of blade bit. So I know we don't see much of it, but we will see like small inklings of it. And I'm kind of imagining this to be sort of a broken sort of sword or something like that. So we don't have to model the whole thing. And if it was an old katana, the blade would probably like, it's not straight, but it would curve up out the top. And you can do that if you want. But let's just start in this one. We're going to model this blade part, then we're going to figure out how we attach this to the actual blade. So I'm just going to hide my chainsaw bar. And I'm just going to go to my panels, orthographic, and front. And I'm just going to go view, image plane, and import another image plane. And I'm going to go to my reference files. I'll go to my sword ref. And where is it? Probably should have named these, but here we are. So I found some katana ref. And it's over there. So I'm just going to pull this across. And I'm just going to align my image plane up to my reference image, to my blade. And I'm just going to scale this up. So I can't see it at the moment, so I'm just going to go to my attributes editor, image plane, and change this to 0.7. So now I can see through. I'm just going to line this bottom one up because it's already pretty much there. And I'm just going to roughly scale it so it's correct. And obviously the blade doesn't go through like this, so we have to rotate it slightly. So you can sort of see what we're getting here. And you can already see that we've got, if we unhide our chainsaw bar, this is going to sort of decide where we're going to put the bolts. And so we're probably just going to model this katana, and we'll just have a look, see what we can get from this. So maybe that's correct. And it could possibly be something like this. So the concept is always up for being changed, because it's your model at the end of the day. So, but then we have to think about how we're going to power this. So we'd have to sort of reconcept some of this. So let's actually let's put a pin in that for now. We can hide that. And let's just model this blade. To sort of fit like that. So I'm quite happy with how that is, but just for modeling purposes, I am just gonna square that off. And I'm gonna hide that. Now I'm just gonna lock. I'm going to select my translations and rotations and right click and lock. Now we can sort of, if we look close, we can sort of see this sort of shape. We've got the main sort of thickness of it here. Then the blade thins out here and also thins out into a point. So let's just create a cube. And I'm going to pick in the middle. I'm just going to scale this up. Just roughly correct. Obviously our thickness is going to be completely wrong. So I'm just going to go to my perspective. In fact, I'm going to tear off a copy. Select my perspective, middle mouse click it to here. So now I can see that. I can just hide my plane quickly, and I'm just going to bring back my prop sword. And do you know what? No, I don't want to use that because I want you to keep that as ref. Well, I could have just, in fact, why don't I just do this? Control D to duplicate that, and Shift P to get that out of the group. And I can hide that, and now I've got my blade. Doing things the hard way, as usual. Cool, so I'm just going to push this forward. And I can keep my perspective here. And I'm just going to pull this up. Go to my X-ray so I can see through. And just go to pull that to the end there. Then go to my modeling toolkit. Gonna select all the vertices and bring it up to here for now. And so we've got this curve here. So we started in the middle. I'm just gonna go to my multi-cut. Gonna hold control, make an edge loop where it's on the flattest part. Then I'm gonna bring this up to match. Also, make sure you rotate it slightly as well so it matches the rotation of the curve. Then I'm also going to use multi-cut again, hold control, left click, and then I'm going to pull these down to match. I'm just try and keep this consistent all the way through. Obviously it thins out here. So I'm just going to bring up the top. And make a cut here. And I'm going to try and move this all as uniformly as I can at the beginning. So I'm going to align everything to the blade. So I know that all these are uniformly aligned there. Let's reset the tool. Just pull that across. Just rotate that. Rotate that there. And now let's readjust. So now we've got our basic sort of curved shape. So now we need to do this sort of tip. So let's just think how we do this. So I'm just going to select this and deselect and Control E. Just going to bring this up. And for now, I'm just going to bring that to there, because I don't think we're going to need this whole blade, but I'm just doing this so I can do another little blocking out and see what we actually need. So I'm just going to make edge loop there. Cool. So we've got this really basic shape, and let's not worry about doing that because we'll never see inside there. So if we press 3, we can sort of see it's matching this curve, although the edges are sort of folding in, it doesn't matter for now. So we need to figure out, before I go into any detailing of this, I'm just going to hide this. Bring back our chainsaw bar and bring back the prop. I just want to have a look and see what we're gonna. So I had the wrong orientation on my manipulator, so that's gone wonky. So it's always good to check that you've got the right orientation, otherwise you'll end up doing silly things like that. But it's easily fixed by selecting all the faces and scaling them. But it's one thing to keep an eye out for. So I'm just going to do a quick rough concept of what this would look like if we left the curved blade. Because although our sort of plan is to also not paint out a lot of stuff, I think we're going to keep it with our original concept. I don't really like how the sword. So let's unhide everything. Because this is not. I'm not following a client brief or anything like that. I'm just creating something of my choice. And say if this is the concept or something, you'd have to obviously follow it. But let's just quickly Control D and duplicate that. See, that would be something like this. I know we're not going to duplicate that, but in fact, actually, let's pull that. So that'll be like that. I don't like that. I don't like how that sword pokes out. You may like it, but then if you're the whole reason for this is that we've got a broken sword. So I'm probably going to chop this or have it broken off at the middle. So it's always good to sort of take some time and just properly think through what you're going to do, because I haven't drawn this out. I'm kind of concepting as I go along as well. So I'm just going to hide that. In fact, maybe I want. I'm just trying to think where. If I look over this side, where do I actually want this blade? Yeah, I think I'm going to chop it off here, so I don't break the shape of the whole sort of chainsaw. So I'm just going to hide that. I'm going to hide all my concept stuff and bring back my plane. I'm going to go back to my orthographic. Just going to realign this back up. I think I'm just going to do the blade this long. So this is going to be pretty simple to model. It's not going to be super complex. So I'm just going to select my edges. And I go bridge. So now we've got this whole shape sort of here. Go to my panels and front. Just going to go to my shading and X-ray, and still got to create this sort of blade shape. So this is not going to be super complex, super difficult to make. So I'm just going to select my multi-cut and make an edge loop there. They do have that sort of bracket around there, some of them, the samurai swords, so we'll have a look at that as well. So I'm just going to get to my perspective. Going to select my polygons, press R, and I'm just going to scale this to a blade. Obviously this is where we're going to have this broken, so sawn, we might not even see it, but it's important that we sort of keep everything as close to as what it would be. So what we do need to do is make sure that this doesn't fold when we smooth it. So I'm going to double click this edge loop. I'm actually going to bevel that as well. Because I want that noticeable edge in there. So just go to my poly bevel again. Let's just change that to 0.6. Now we need to sharpen this edge. So just go to my modeling toolkit, multi-cut. I'm also going to make a cut right down the center. I can select my edges. Just going to select the middle ones. If I hold shift and right click, and transform component. This means that I can just pull this out directly on its axis. I don't want to bring it out loads, because I'm also going to bevel this as well. This just helps with the smoothing. So now I'm just going to select all my edges. Not the middle one, I'm just going to leave that and I'm just going to select bevel. And I'm going to keep an eye on this smallest edge. And I want to try and keep this as even as possible. Just going to check both sides. So now if I press 3. We've got a pretty sharp edge there now. If we wanted to sharpen it a little bit more, let's just scale it slightly, because then that sort of gives, because then we're doing this sort of thing that we don't generally want to do. Like, you wouldn't necessarily want to do this unless you're specifically making a blade, because this, when you scale a beveled edge, it scales the bevel as well. So now you can sort of see the effect that that's having. And you can see it's scaling everything sort of, it's almost breaking the bevel in a sort of way, but a way that we kind of want it to. I'm just gonna, so now we have this really nice sharp edge. So if I turn my wireframe off, you can see we've got that noticeable sort of bend in here. But you notice that we've got this weird shading here, because we've got quite a long distance. When it's smoothed, you see this sort of like smoothed edge here, and this one here, it's traveling quite a long way, so we need to sort of add an edge loop in there, add an edge loop in there. So now when we press 3, we're getting really nice sharp edges, and the travel of that smooth is not going very far. Cool. So if we leave that on smooth, we can see they've created this really rough sort of blade. So let's unhide our chainsaw bar and our prop sword. Let's hide all the parts. So let's put this in the correct place. And I'm sure there are actual blades that do come out straight, but I don't really like it. So that looks kind of weird, so let's bring that up. So if we do like to duplicate stuff and just have a look what it looks like. It's always good to sort of give it a good look. have it poking out a bit, I guess. So this is also going to sort of determine where we're going to put our bolts. Oh, not those bolts. These bolts. So probably going to have one here now. No, we can't really have one there. One up here. So if we just unhide everything, like the blade is not a huge part of this. It's more of lots of little things together. And like when we see this, let's turn on wireframe on. How much of this? Let's hide the real blade. Sorry. How much of this are we actually going to see? A really small amount. I quite like that you see it through there. Actually, it's quite nice. That'll be a nice little thing we can show off in there. But yeah. Cool. So we've made that part. Let's name it. So let's call this the... Let's just copy that so I don't have to keep typing it every time. Chainsaw real blade Geo. That wasn't the most complicated model, but yeah, it was a necessary part for it. Let me have a look about those sort of, because they have those bits around here, and we can have a. In fact, let's actually see. I don't think you're ever going to see that because we don't. Let's not worry too much about that. Cool. So for this part of this tutorial, we're done. We've just made the blade. So in the next one, we'll start going into like the little fixings and making bolts probably. So if you've enjoyed this tutorial, hit that like button and subscribe for more like this.